process. Can traditional research lead to kick-ass ads? Let's find out from my friend Lizanne. Hello.
Hello. Very nice song, thank you.
Well, Paul MacFarlane here, you know my silly face. We're going to talk today about, actually, Lizanne's going to talk about when traditional research has led to brilliant advertising. I have my mate. I'm all lips.
Okay, hello, I'm Lizanne Byrne. I'm from Frog Hopper in the UK. Just a very brief introduction, done market research and marketing for quite a few years, at least quarter of a century. Mixture of food company brands, big FMCG household brands, agencies, not ad agencies, research agencies, and now my own marketing branding agency. Yeah, so kick-ass research can make the kick-ass ad campaigns. Not make them, help create them. I would overstate the importance of research. Anyway, what do you want to quiz me on, or shall I just...
Well, what was the client? How did the research go? What did you learn? And how did it lead to you believing in research?
Well, I believed in research from the beginning anyway, but this was probably the best piece of work that I've done in my whole quarter of a century career, because it did lead to a really good campaign, and one that ended up actually on the front of Time magazine, which is a pretty good achievement. It won awards. It had a brilliant return on investment, I think 1.14, if I remember rightly. And it was a pretty big spend. We're talking about millions of pounds, and it was for McVitie's. So in the UK, McVitie's is a huge brand in biscuits, the #1 brand. People have grown up with it. Very, very large heritage brand, very cozy feeling. And it is the crown jewels of the company that I was working for, called United Biscuits back then, and then since been taken over by Plardis. So I kind of had left the company to have children and then came back in a consultancy role. And one of the things that was bugging me was this was the crown jewels of the company. I hadn't worked on it previously when I had been there. I'd worked on all sorts of other kind of brands, but it just bugged me that it had quite a functional positioning, I suppose, rather than an emotional one. And I thought if any biscuit's got emotions, out of all the ones that we made a lot of different things like Jaffa, Victoria, biscuits, hobnobs, you know, all the ones you've grown up with as a kid, basically, especially if you live in the UK. And it didn't have an emotional positioning, or not a strong enough one anyway. So we did a piece of work to get to what that positioning was. And then the next stage was to develop some research coming off it. Now,
Question. Before you get into the method, can you give us a quick snapshot? What was that brand like currently at that time?
At the time, it was a really well-known brand. I mean, it's been in, I think, penetration in households. So the number of households that have had it is something like 99%, so huge. So everybody knows what it's about. If you were to mention a brand of biscuits, McVitie's would be the first one that you'd say. And it is the leader when you go in the supermarket aisles, big red packaging. So
for sales, flat, trending down, trending up?
Bobbing along, but always at risk if there is a recession, as there is now, of course, again, in the UK, just starting, that people will trade in for supermarket-owned biscuits, which are very similar in very similar packaging, but they're not McVitie's. So the brand was everything, and it was really important to carve it out and protect it, because the own label competition, and by that I mean supermarkets like Sainsbury's and Tesco's, etc., is huge. So really important. Plus also McVitie's itself itself is like a master brand for all other biscuits, like Jaffa Cakes, for example. And so this campaign was actually about creating a master brand, positioning, and then advertising it. It was quite tricky, really, because we were trying to advertise McVitie's digestives, but also create a whole new master brand campaign for the portfolio, which is pretty wide. So not an easy one by any means. But as I said, crown jewels. So if you're looking to sell a company, which we were at the time, you've got to show that that brand is safe and it's working well, and you've got ideally a really good, brilliant advertising campaign. So it was good timing for me to come in and challenge it. I did hammer on about it because I always think the best brands have emotional positionings, and it's about getting to what that emotional benefit is. Not easy. And for everyone that goes, research is all about data and blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. It's about trying to find a connection between a brand, not a product, the actual brand, and what that person needs or wants. And that's what research to me is about.
So how did you achieve that in that time?
Yeah. So we did, I wanted to involve everybody. So we did a massive step back with the big people that were going to make decisions. So the marketing director, her marketing director above her, the ad agency, we got them involved. So it's the MD of the ad agency, it was Publicis at the time, and MD of our packaging agency, because he's very creative, which was JKR Global now it's called, and some other people like our media buying agency, Starcom, and then key members of the team, or people that we just thought were quite creative in their thinking, that could contribute. So we had kind of like a kickoff session where I explained the purpose of this was to get to a really good brand positioning for McVitie's. And in doing that, there's a little bit of education for some people, not for everybody, obviously, about, well, what is a good brand, the importance of having an emotional brand, and giving some examples so people buy into it, and then talking about McVitie's, what we know about it, and maybe the things that we didn't know. So even though we've done shed loads of research, I mean, this is a very research-driven company, and I would get the MD or CEO coming to me going, Lizanne, is this actually true? Because the marketing people would sell in, and I'd be the voice of the consumer and the voice of truth. So, and people in my team, obviously. So, yeah, I got all of those people involved. And actually, when we got a date together, which was pretty hard, but it was important, people really enjoyed it because it was about going back to why you're in marketing in the first place, which is about developing brands, making money, feeling proud about a brand, and actually meeting consumers' needs. So, yeah, that was the process.
What did you learn in the process? What was the aha in all that?
The aha was when we did some research. I mean, you used all sorts of different methodologies. Came back to a really quite obvious thing, but we probably haven't voiced it properly, which was biscuits with a cup of tea. Remember, we're talking about UK here, but biscuits, even on their own, create a form of connection between people. It's a bit like a welcome. So say you have builders come around to your house, offer them a cup of tea, they like that. Offer them a
builder's cup versus a northern cup. Yeah.
Yeah, builder's brew, as we say. Yeah, in the UK, builder's brew. Offer them a cup of tea or coffee. They like that. You're welcoming them. You're being human. Offer them a biscuit as well. They love you because it shows that you care a bit. And it's a small, tiny little thing. It's not as emotional as when you share a cake, because that's about showing love and celebrations, but it's getting there, and it is welcoming someone into your life, creating a connection. In England, tea and biscuits are paired like cheese and crackers.
Are you saying that the gooier and the softer it is, the more emotional it is, and if it's somewhat crisp, it can be a little bit more distanced?
Oh, interesting. No, I think it's just biscuits in general as a category are emotional. Crisps as a category, I've done a lot of work on crisps. They're more high energy crisps, actually, generally.
Well, no, but that's digestive versus the Jaffa cake is a totally different thing.
Oh, yeah, no, interesting. Yeah, digestives is obviously a hard biscuit. Jaffa cake, is it a biscuit? Is it a cake? We had a big debate and we went to court over that. It is a cake because it goes dry when you leave it out. Oh, no, hang on a minute. I've got that wrong. Hang on. A biscuit, if you leave it out, will go soggy. Yeah, not in the tin. Go soft. You don't want that. A
Well, in
cake,
the
if you
Netherlands, they have these stroopwafels, and some people put them. They're like, you know, little waffles fried or whatever, with some syrupy stuff in there, and they can be somewhat crisp. But if you put it on top of your cuppa, it gets very soft, and that's sort of
ah,
you have your choice.
interesting. Yes, that is interesting, isn't it?
So, in other words, when you did the research, you learned a nuance, maybe a human nuance that you hadn't given enough
Yes.
attention to. The work that was produced because of it, was it good?
Yeah, it was. It was very good.
You
I
have
must admit,
access to it?
sorry.
You have access to it?
YouTube. It's on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, you mean that link that's right below there? We just posted of the resultant work, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there were a couple of campaigns that come out of it.
See,
The
here's
first,
interesting. Yerba mate doesn't have anything like that. This is a social thing that people pass around, in the university. It's very contemplative energy. But the English biscuit culture is rich and deep and so human.
yeah, it is. It really is. It's like, everyone talks about cup of tea in Britain, and then they do their Cockney accents, cup of tea, and Americans do it particularly badly. Sorry, Paul. I'm
But
sure
back
we
to
do a
the
very good one.
research. We're here to talk
So
about the research. So the research methodology, if we're going to be contentious, and I'm going to represent creatives who are anti-research, what did you learn that a gifted creative person who goes and talks to people and has an idea couldn't have done?
okay, there's two bits: the research that got to our positioning, or the research of the creative idea.
Your choice. What
Okay,
did
well,
you learn in the research that a really gifted creative person couldn't have found out?
it was that insight into what is the emotional driver for biscuits, basically. Now we knew, because we did a lot of need state work, that it was something to do with belonging and connection. Um, but we didn't really know any more than that. It was like, how important is it? And also, we didn't want to over egg it. So, it's really important. We didn't say a biscuit will solve all your problems. It's just that little invite, a small signal that you're welcoming someone and you're connecting with them.
But I
So
want to go
that,
deeper, deeper. Did you find quantity of a truth, or did you find a new truth?
not quantity of a truth, we've got depth to the truth, is what I would say, which is what qualitative research or ethnographic research or diary research, we used a bit of everything, is all about. So we got people, for example, to a lot of people are online, aren't they? Now, it wasn't just focus groups. It was about, right, you're having a biscuit. What did you feel before it? What happened before it? Why did you choose a biscuit? Why did you choose that biscuit? Trying to get to the why, to understand what their mood was, how they felt after it, why they might offer a McVitie's biscuit. In some cases, McVitie's biscuit isn't good enough. You need something more premium and posh and chocolate, etc. So we got depth, and what it was really was, it was a little twinkle for creatives, that it really is a tiny but significant moment. Let's not over egg it. It's not like the tea becomes amazing when you have a biscuit with it. It just makes it a little bit more special. And of course, you don't just have biscuits with tea, but there's something about both of them that's welcoming and a tradition, a habit.
Immediately when I hear that, I would think of an idea that in the medium did that to the medium what that moment does to life. Not that big of a deal. Don't over egg it.
Mm-hmm.
Small, but a nuance that, ah, ah. Because obviously, changing human behavior. Oh, I really don't think about my biscuits. Okay, now I'm thinking about them. So I'm going to buy them less because I'm watching my weight. Or no, I'm buying them more because I like what this brand is saying. So the prescient question is, research was done, new work was done. What happened to sales?
Up significantly. It was brilliant. It was a campaign that got talked about, immediately in the press, marketing week or campaign. As I said, it got picked up on the front of Time magazine. So the campaign was called Sweet, with lots of E's in the middle. It also had animals in it. That's always going to help. But there was a reason to have animals in the campaign. So the cuddly kittens that came out of the packet represented the warm hug that you would get from a McVitie's biscuit, feeling at home, all that lovely stuff when you open the door and you go home and your shoulders just relax, that type of feeling. But when it was Jaffa, we had this freaky nocturnal animal, and as a teenager in his bedroom, slightly bizarre advertising, but it cut through, and it was that animal that got on the front of Time magazine. So it got talked about, and that's what you want, isn't it? You want something you feel proud about gets talked about.
Wanted to tease a future subject. When that new advertising came out, hopefully based on that small human nuance of an insight, how long did they stick with that idea?
They did stick with it pretty long term. So that initial campaign came out and then it evolved. So same strategy, but slight evolution of it. So it went from feeling cozy and warm and comfortable with a McVitie's biscuit to then more into what you talk about a lot, which is about human connections. So it evolved then into a cartoon execution. And there was, for example, I mean, it'll be on the link below as well, but the crane driver that's up there looks down, everyone's having a break, he's up miles high on his own, and he sees everyone having a tea and biscuit, and then they send a biscuit up to him, and then suddenly he feels involved. So it kind of evolved from one to the other.
Okay, so those evolutions and improvements, did more research happen to make them feel good about making those evolutions, or did they feel they had a trajectory they could trust?
Yeah, they would have researched it, absolutely, because you don't
In other words,
spend.
like putting someone on the top of a crane and sending a biscuit up, would that offend anyone? That kind of thing?
No, it wouldn't offend anyone, but I suppose what you're just looking to do before you spend millions, and I'm talking about millions of pounds, you just want to check that they understand it, because the idea could be amazing, the execution could be amazing, but there could be something that the consumer just doesn't get. And the open creators want to check it, don't they, Paul?
So Lizanne says research works, and when you have a cuppa and a biscuit, what does it mean? And if you're spending lots of money and you don't want to feel nervous, and you want your C-level supervisor to say, well done, research can work. Okay, well, if everything from this moment happens the way we think it should happen, whenever you see this post on LinkedIn, there should be something right below that might show the previous campaign, but definitely will show Lizanne's favorite work, because the whole idea of this, whether you do research or you don't, kick-ass advertising is always the goal. Boost those sales and make people pay attention and say, oh, I rather like that.
Was that your English accent?
Yeah.
Well done.
Well,
Getting
thanks
there.
again. We'll go into this a little bit deeper, because data is a monster that still exists today. Data can be our friend. We've got to plumb this a little bit deeper and find some insights and some truths to make whatever we're doing right now a little bit better. So everyone, think about the research you've done. Think about the research you're doing. Think about the research you're going to do. Think about the resultant work. And join us next time where we crack open something about research or planning and great ads. So until next time.
Bye-bye. We'll have a cup of tea next time.
Yes, thank you very much.